You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hey, what's up, folks? I'm coming at you live from the Tone Mob HQ. Well, I guess not live. This is pre-recorded, but you know what I mean. I'm here for you. And so is Matt from Mule Resonator Guitars. I'm very excited to bring him back on the show. The first time he recorded, well, we got into it a little bit, but let's just say things have changed dramatically for both of us. So it was time to revisit. And now that I actually have one of his guitars, it just made all the sense in the world. So that is what we're doing today. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of really cool insight and has had some awesome experiences to talk about. So the really good chat. I think you'll really dig it. And the Patreon content, I gotta say, was extra hot as well. So if that's your thing, you can go over to patreon.com/tonemob. And for $5 a month, you will get extra episodes right to your ears, right in your player. You get your own special access to all that. And yeah, it's a fun time for everyone. So if you'd like to support the show and get some extra content, that is a way to do just that. And one more thing, if you'd like to support the show by your gear buying habits, don't forget about tonemob.com/reverb. That has been fixed, by the way. I said a couple episodes ago that it was having some issues. That's all dialed in. It's working as it should, and a lot of you are using it. So thank you very much. So anything you do on Reverb, just go to tonemob.com/reverb. Whether you're buying, selling, or if this is the first time you've ever heard of Reverb somehow, or you've just avoided making an account until now, signing up helps out too. So that's a free way to support the show. You can just sign up for an account, and then if you ever need to Reverb, it'll be there for you. So tonemob.com/reverb is that place, and I will shut up with this blabbering, and we'll get it right into the episode with Mr. Matt Eich. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have returning Mr. Matt Eich from Mule Resonator Guitars. What's going on, man?
Hey. Oh, I'm happy to be back. I think last time we talked, I was sitting on my couch in my basement, 5 years ago or so when we first did
I don't
this.
think it was that long ago.
I think it was a while. I was I've been in this shop for 4 years, I think, and that was before we moved into a real shop.
Oh, okay. Well,
now I'm professional. Now
we're both so professional. Well, so I mean, in the interest of clarity, I'm pretty sure where I was when I was recording was in the lab at my former employer.
Nice.
So which, a lot of listeners know I haven't been there for probably a year and a half, 2 years now. So yeah, things have changed for both of us quite a bit. And that's kind of why I wanted to get you back on, because I knew that things had changed drastically for both of us in that time frame. And I wanted to, well, for all the new listeners, if this is the first time you're hearing from Matt, go back and listen to his episode. Just Google Tone Mob Mule Resonators. I'm guaranteed it'll pop up. And then listen to this one, because this is going to be an update. I want to know what you've been up to since then. Let's talk about the new shop and the new guitars. You weren't making Mulecasters back then. We got all kinds of things to talk about. Oh, yeah, and then I have one now, so that's a different story, too. So,
yeah. Great. There's all sorts of stuff. So the last time we talked, it was just me, and I was starting Mule in the basement of the house that I was renting, and then now I have 5 employees, and we're making about 150 resonators and Mulecasters a year. And the Mulecasters are the new thing. They're a T and S style electric guitar, but the bodies are still made out of steel. And so that's kind of the big shift. I think we started doing those 3 years ago, and in the first year, I think we sold like 3 or 4 of them, and then the second year we sold maybe 10, and now it's about half of what we do.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's been huge.
It's a really unique sounding guitar. And we were talking about this, like I like the first time I heard one, I was like, well, that is different. I have like sort of varying opinions on tone wood. Like I know that like a lot of people are like it's not a thing that doesn't exist. I'm like, I don't know for sure. I do know that I've picked up identical guitars that were identically set up and spec'd out and everything, and one was good and one wasn't. So I don't know what I'm not a scientist. I don't know what that is, but it's like there's sometimes an audible sonic difference between two identical guitars. And
well, I think that you hit it right there with that you're not a scientist, and I think that's the perfect way to be when it comes to picking guitars. I think maybe this has been your experience with the Resonator too. The reason I love Resonators is that if you pick up a steel-bodied Resonator guitar, there is 100% chance that that's going to change the way that you approach the instrument. It's going to change the choices that you make musically, and that's incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what's refreshing about using steel is that when someone picks up a T-style steel-bodied guitar and what they expect is just another copy, and they hear something that they've never heard before, and they go, "What is this? What do I do with this thing?" That's so fun, because otherwise you're picking up 10 different instruments trying to find the one that kind of sort of maybe speaks to you a little bit, and you can't find those guitars that change your playing. Of course, it's just a longer process, so it's this kind of medium is just like an immediate shot in the arm. You can't do anything but wake up when you strum on an obnoxiously loud Resonator guitar. So, and that's what's super fun about being in this little niche.
So I wanted to ask you, who did you make the first one for yourself? I mean, a Mulecaster is what I mean by that. Did you do that just for yourself, or did somebody order one? Or what made you make that?
No, I just did that for me. That was mainly an excuse to buy a TIG welder so I could teach myself how to TIG.
All right.
And so the process of building the body is different for that. And so I bought a TIG welder and then started doing that. And that was, it was partly just because I had wanted to try it, and then it was also partly because there's a whole nother group of people that that could have appealed to, but I wasn't really expecting the sonic difference. I think I maybe should have, but the steel is just so loud internally that really comes through the pickups. And what that really changes is like the inflection in your right hand playing. Mm-hmm. So it's a very expressive instrument. So the tone is obviously different, but when you play soft, it's so soft. But the headroom on a guitar like that is so loud comparatively that any little change in your right hand comes out in your playing, and that's a really musical difference. It's not just, it's more trebly or it's more bassy. It's a really musical, emotive change compared to a wood body guitar.
Yeah, it's definitely not subtle to me.
No, it is not subtle.
It is not. It's like, whoa, we have something else on our hands here. Like, it's an electric guitar. And that's kind of where the similarities end sonically. It's like, it definitely sounds like an electric guitar. Yeah. But it's a different kind of, it's immediately recognizable. So if anybody hasn't heard one, my first experience hearing one live, obviously I could hear it on my phone. Like, sometimes you can't hear differences on your phone because it's a little tiny speaker and, compressed in all kinds of dumb ways. But I think these are so apparent. Like I was like, yeah, I can definitely tell that sounds way different than anything I've ever played. And then hearing Ariel Posen, he came through Portland here not too long ago. Maybe it was like 4 or 5 months ago. And hearing it live was something else. Like that was like, oh yeah, that is the vibe I was picking up on. It's
I
really
agree.
Cool.
The first, I think I was convinced about the Mulecaster being a thing when I heard Joshua Davis here in Michigan play his, and he had 2 other guitars with him that night, and so he would swap between the instruments. And when he picked up the Mulecaster and started playing, it was in the first couple measures, and me and one of my other guys kind of looked at each other like, oh, there's something there, especially in the live mix, like the reason that a mandolin cuts through so well in a bluegrass band mix is because it occupies a sonic space that isn't shared with other instruments,
right?
In the EQ. And I think with the Mulecaster, I think it does that too. So it occupies this space that's typically shared between like, a bass guitar or another guitar, or, the drums or something. And with the Mulecaster, the EQ is just different enough to where when someone picks it up and plays it, it just really pops out in front, and that really adds a different feel to the live mix.
So kind of sidestepping from the Mulecasters a little bit, I want to talk to you about the Resonators a little bit. Because the one I have is a little bit older. I don't remember exactly which year it is. And I haven't really said this publicly before because he's not that type of guy who wants, everybody to be like, "Oh, you're so awesome." But it's kind of it's a really extra special guitar for me because it used to belong to Brian Fallon, who I am a huge fan of, as the listeners know, and he's become like a gear buddy sort of, which is kind of mind blowing. I mean, I guess if we step back to when we were first podcasting, never in a million years, like would I have expected that. Like never, like I had no idea that doing this podcast was going to let me get me to talk to people that I respect as artists. Like I figured that the makers were relatively easy to get a hold of. But I did not think that the artists would be so receptive to talking to me. So, basically I was just wearing a Mule hat when we met in person here in Portland, and he was like, "Oh, you have one of those?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, well, how about you send you mine?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So cool. One of my favorite songwriters ever, and now that's one of my favorite guitars, even if it wasn't his. And he was like, "Yeah, I really, really like it," but he's like, he's the type of guy who only keeps like 4 guitars on hand.
Sure.
And he feels like it's kind of a waste for him to have more than that. And I'm like, hoarding. I'm just hoarding all of the instruments. And he's like, if you'll play it, he's like, I just don't have time right now, to give it the attention it deserves. And I was like,
sure,
it's going to get all the attention over here. So but I want to talk about that build a little bit, because this one has a P90 in it. Yeah, and I don't think you do that anymore.
No, we use our Mule Tom Thumbuckers now. And the reason that we switched from the original P90 to the mini humbuckers is with the mini humbucker, it's still I hesitate to compare it to the P90, but it still has kind of that more, like a little bit more snap than like a full size humbucker, but with the hum canceling. And we had enough people who said like, I love it, but it would be really great to not have to fuss with that. Live, that we just switched. And then those mini humbuckers are the ones that we use on the Mulecasters as well. So I think that kind of ties in, the sound together. It really we've tried other pickups inside both of those things, and the minis really reflect the sound of the body the best. So that's what we're sticking with now.
That's interesting. Yeah, I kind of assumed that was the case, but I mean, I love the sound of this P90, but obviously it's a lot to handle when you get any kind of volume close by.
Right, and that's the thing, because with the resonators, it's a acoustic guitar and it's metal, so you're gonna be able to plug it in and play it live, but you're gonna have to wrangle with it a little bit when it comes to feedback. So putting in a mini humbucker is kind of our tip of the hat to, like, we know your pain and we're trying to help you out.
Right. Right.
Just to combat the physics of the instrument. It is what it is. You're not going to be able to plug it in and thrash over your drummer, but it's not that instrument. But with the minis, that kind of helps.
Yeah. Well, it made me curious. I wondered, because I noticed that the Mulecasters had the mini humbuckers too. And so I was curious, like, did you try your original P90 with the Mulecaster yet? So that might work.
Well, so
better.
So we tried. Originally, it was a tele pickup in the bridge and a P90 in the neck, and then we've also tried full humbuckers, and I liked them all, but every time we tried something and compared it to the mini humbuckers in that steel body had that kind of it had that sound, like we were talking earlier, where someone would strum it and you go, oh, that's different. And if we put full-size humbuckers in, it sounds great, but it sounds more like a nice full humbucker guitar. And if we put a P90 in, it's like, it sounds great, it's got that presence, but it didn't reflect the sound of the body as specifically. So it's kind of like we decided just to sit in that little pocket and own it, as opposed to try to chase, and offer, 10 different pickups and all of that, because the context is so unique. It's for the Resonators, it's a 3-inch depth body. It's a Resonator guitar and it's made out of steel. So you might come in and say, well, I really like these Lawler vintage wound, whatever it is. But you like that in a wood-bodied electric guitar, not in a steel-bodied acoustic Resonator guitar. It's a whole different context. So we just picked one and, after trying it, and said, this is the way.
This is the way. This is the way. Well, I have found, though, a way to combat the feedback. It doesn't do a lot of good for live playing, but it's kind of a strange, funny thing to do. But I run my guitar cord out of the door outside, and I have a little tiny front porch on the front of the shred shed. And so I actually made an IGTV video probably 6 months ago or so, where I was playing the Resonator through, I think, like some reverb and stuff. I loved how it sounded. I couldn't stop it from feeding back in the room, because I had the amp up pretty loud. Which I obviously knew that was going to happen, but I'm just always out here sonically experimenting with nonsense.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
and so I just ran my guitar cable out of the door and just sat on the front porch and kind of like set my camera up. Cool. And so, like, a lot of people were like, where is that sound coming from? Because I had it mic'd on my, running to my DAW inside. So there was no feedback. So it was like kind of the best of both worlds. So if you're recording, if you can get like an ISO booth for the amp, you can it's a completely different sound than anything you've heard before, especially when you can really dig in and get after it without worrying about the feedback. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I really find myself more frequently than not playing with like plugging into an amp, just because it's like it just adds the sound. And with the Resonator, and both Jeffrey Foucault and Joey Landreth have said this, they came across this individually, was when they recorded with their Mules, what they did was they plugged into an amp and they mic'd the amp and made that one track, and then they mic'd the guitar itself and made that another track, and then blended the two. And it's just a sound that, I mean, you listen to it on their recordings and it's just like,
what even is that? Because there's
it sounds kind of like a piano.
There's no
like,
precedent for it. It's not something that your ear goes, oh, that must be Joey's do list, kicked on. It
Right.
turns your brain off. You just go, oh, like, where is that coming from? And so when I'm playing at home on my Resonator and I plug into the amp, the Resonator itself is loud enough to where the amp's not overpowering it, so you get kind of this stereo field where if you're sitting on the porch, you're hearing that Resonator, but you're hearing the amp in the next room, and you're getting that whole room sound going too. And it's just this huge pipe organ type, wall of sound.
Yes.
That's just awesome. You can't do that with your electric guitar. You can't sit on your porch and strum that and get that same sort of effect. And it's just a fun rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, and then of course, me adding a bunch of pedals to it, making it even weirder. Like putting a bunch of modulation on it, and it's like, oh man, it's just like it's a great tool for somebody like me who is just obsessed with finding new sounds because it is so different. And so running that so even just okay, so we've talked about how unique, and we've probably used that word 400 times, and probably will continue to use that word 400 times, but it's very unique just by itself. You kind of start with the bass, and it's like, wow, this is different. How about this new word? When you got your Mule the first time, did you find it like uncomfortable? Not like in setup wise, but like in what do I even play on this? No. Ironically, what was really funny, because I don't play acoustic very often. Reed never. And so I got it out of the case, and my wife was like, "Wow, that looks really cool." And she's also a huge Brian Fallon fan, so this was a guitar she was actually really excited about. And she's ironically, she's been asking me to get an acoustic forever. She's like, "You got another electric?" Like every time I get another electric guitar, I'm like, "I love the electric guitar." But she's been asking me to get an acoustic for a long time. Like, you need to get a nice acoustic, basically, so she can tolerate listening to me play,
just to keep the volume down.
Yeah. And so she's like, "You're always, it's just too loud." But so she was excited about this guitar. I pulled it out and I was playing it, and she's like, "Oh," she was like, "This is what you need." It's kind of like an electric guitar in tone, sort of, but it's definitely an acoustic guitar. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't really think about it that way." The Resonators are a weird, like sonically, they're kind of a weird hybrid of the two, even when they're unplugged.
I agree 100%.
So she was like, "This is your acoustic. Cool. This makes a ton of sense." And so I've been taking it to campfires and things like that. I'm like, this is my acoustic now. Like I just kind of treat it like an acoustic guitar. It's set up, standard tuning. I'm thinking about actually dropping it down a little bit just for fun, but I just set it up standard tuning, and no, it wasn't uncomfortable at all, because I play it. I don't know. It just felt very natural to me.
It found its home.
And the response was just what I needed. I don't know. It kind of like, I was like, "Yep, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be, and this is exactly what I wanted it to be."
Well, I'm glad it ended up with
nailed it. It makes me. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking over, like I'm talking into my mic and looking over my shoulder at it, going,
I'll be with you in a second, baby. Just wait.
Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah, we'll be. It's a weird juxtaposition, because right in front of my face, I have it's on loan to me right now. I'm so lucky. I'm so freaking spoiled. It's not even funny. Jamar Guitars. He's a local luthier here in Oregon. It's my first adventure into multi-scale land.
Ooh,
have you ever messed with that?
I have. I've made a few of those fresh out of guitar school when I learned it was a thing.
Oh yeah? You think that will be a Mule thing at some point?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I mean, like I had enough PTSD from trying to cut those slots. So,
gotcha.
I really like the idea of it, and I really like the feel of it. I think with Ariel's, with the short scale baritone, I think that has its own tone you know, with the string tension and stuff. And so I'll just leave it there and leave the multi-scale to the people who can do it and leave them well enough alone. So.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, lots of people who are multi-scale proponents, probably, I'm sure this is a thing that everyone says. It didn't take nearly as much adjustment. It almost took no adjustment at all. I was surprised.
Is that a 6-string?
It's a 6-string. Yeah, 6-string multi-scale. It's not like a wide fan. I've never played any that are like super extreme. This is like a 1-inch difference from high E to low E. Yeah. It's pretty subtle, but it feels fantastic.
Awesome.
It even has a thinner neck, has a pretty thin neck on it, which I think most multi-scale builders tend to be on the thinner side, which isn't my thing. I like the wizard necks and stuff. They hurt my hands after a while anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that because of how this is designed, it doesn't do that. I can play this guitar just fine, even though it is a really thin neck. So
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, another fun rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it's got some weird pickups in it. He's going to come on the show and talk about it here in a couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
It's got some really weird pickups in it that it's got like neo magnets and a bunch of other stuff. He's going to have to describe it. It's crazy.
I'm going to listen to it because I want to geek out about that stuff.
Well, he may have talked about it before. So he was a co-host with Paul Roney on the Luthierist, which I think they're in the middle of like going back and archiving all those episodes. That podcast is unfortunately no longer current. Like they're not putting out any new episodes, but I think they're archiving the back catalog. And so he may have talked about it on there somewhere.
I'll look him up.
Yeah. Good guy. Really unique, interesting instruments.
Awesome.
And yeah. He's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes from my house.
Oh,
so
cool.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. That's super cool.
So speaking of cool artists and all that stuff, you have quite a roster of players playing the Mules now. Thank you for introducing me to Jeffrey, by the way. Not like physically, but his music is
oh my gosh.
So all kinds of my business. So good.
He's so good. Yeah, he's so good. That's Jeffrey Fokolt, and he I've been listening to him for 15 years, I think. And then I think that was maybe 4 years ago. He just sent me an email and was like, my wife Chris wants to buy me a guitar for my 40th birthday, and I want it to be a Mule. And I got that email. I was walking down the street with a friend of mine, and I literally like sat down on the sidewalk. I just like, you'll never guess who emailed me and wants me to build a happy birthday guitar for him. And the first video that he sent me playing that Mule was him playing a Rainer Tacek song, and I've watched that probably 300 times. It's just one of those trippy things. I think you're exactly right. Where we were saying earlier, like, how is this work that you do, like with the podcast, connect you with artists and makers and stuff? And I that was really clicking with me when you were talking about that, because that's the whole thing for a guitar maker, to like make this thing that is now in the world, and then to see someone whose life work is making use of that, and just seeing that happen is just, there's not a word for that emotion, and it's just like the most special thing ever. So yeah, Jeffrey is definitely like at the top of the list there for that stuff.
Yeah, he's incredible. It was kind of one of those moments when I found him because you posted about it on Instagram, and I was like, found his music, and I was like, where have I been?
Yeah,
where is this guy's been around for a while. I'm obviously very into music and very into that style of music too. I was just like, how did this go? How did I miss this? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you found out. Have you been able to see him live?
No, not yet. Not yet. I would really like to do that. So yeah, now that I have 2 children, my live experiences are like, this is what the unfortunate reality is I have both like more time than I've ever had before to like go catch things, but also my responsibilities are more than they've ever been. So like me and my wife love going to shows. Like that's one of our very favorite things to do together. We're both huge music fans. And there's people coming into town, you know, people that have been on the podcast or that know about the podcast or something, you know, just whatever the case may be. Like, oh, dude, I'm in town tonight playing a show, and I'm like, oh, I so badly want to go. While I'm holding like a crying infant, I'm like, I can't take them to my mom and dad's 4 times a week. You know, it's just like that's just not cool.
That's gotta be hard. You know, someone comes through once a year, and it's gotta end on it's gotta be on the day that neither kid is having a meltdown, and someone's there to watch them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be hard.
Well, I'm lucky because I have, you know, several people we can leave them with. I'm just like, I just can't leave my kids that much. That's just not cool. You know,
I am a parent.
It's just not I am a dad first and foremost. So I gotta be that first, you know, and I'm a music lover, you know, 7th or something, you know, down the line, you know, it's just how it is. I'm not complaining. That might sound like complaining. These are
that's priority.
These are very, very high quality problems to have.
Absolutely.
I'm happy that these are problems. This is totally. I love these problems.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But that, you know, it's just and then there's the other side of things where it's like my wife and I like a lot of the same artists, but then I'm a big heavy music fan, and so I want to go headbang sometimes, and she is not. So there's that weird juxtaposition too, where I am like, I really want to go like do a hardcore show, but like I'm already having to be picky with my shows, you know. And I definitely shouldn't go to one without my wife because she loves music too. So it's kind of I'm like, when am I going to get to a hardcore?
Yeah, you're
show
a hardcore fan 12th.
Yeah, maybe 15th. I just pretend. I just put on Knocked Loose and headbang in my car by myself, and that's about as close as I can get. So, yeah, I'm not complaining. This is fun. This is totally fun. Well, so other than Jeffrey and Ariel, who we've already talked about, and Joey, I guess, who else have you gotten in touch with through the Mule stuff?
Josh Smith has a Mule, and he's he's got a Resonator, and I mean, he's just completely sick. You know, there's just nobody who plays that smooth like he does. So seeing him,
it's disgusting.
Yeah,
it's
seeing
so
him
gross.
do that on a Resonator will light your world on fire too. Josh Smith, we're building. We just started one for Theo Katzman, and that will be the most fun Resonator that we've made probably so far.
Why is that?
Well, his music is just so fun, you know.
Well, that's true.
It's gonna be a cutaway, and it's gonna be pink. And
how did I know it was gonna be pink?
Yeah,
I knew it was gonna be pink.
Yeah, we the first pink guitar we did was for Jason Momoa, and after we did,
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Aquaman.
Yeah,
and so we did that pink one, and then we just finished a pink Resonator for him, and then Ariel's got his pink Strato Mule, and then we've done a whole bunch of other pink ones since then. So yeah, might as well. Everybody.
Yeah, I love the pink ones. I need a pink guitar. I know that the pink guitar thing is supposed to be the Guitar Nerds thing, but they've infected me with it. I don't know if you've ever listened to their podcast. They have a fantastic podcast. They're a bunch of rad dudes from the UK. They've been doing it longer than I have. They've been doing it forever. But their thing is shell pink. Yes. They're always going on about shell pink. They all disagree on everything, it seems like, except shell pink. They all love shell pink. And their love of shell pink has infiltrated my brain. I'm like, I need a shell pink Telecaster
shell pink
or something.
Is awesome. I'm going to agree with them on that. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It looks great on which did you do? Well, let's back up. Let's talk about the Jason Momoa thing.
Yeah,
that's what we need to talk about. How did that happen?
Yeah,
I love Instagram. It's the best.
So the way that happened was like it got in my head. I was like, it's like, who have we not built a guitar for? Like build guitars for all these amazing artists and great customers and this and this. And I was like, we haven't built a guitar for a movie star yet, And so then I'm on Instagram and I see a picture of Jason Momoa playing CW Stone King's Resonator guitar. And I'm like, wow, he's in Resonators. That's cool. And then I was actually looking at buying an old National wood body, like 1930 something National, that was posted by like Emerald City Guitars, I think. And he commented, Jason commented on it and said, like, love it, DM me. And so I ended up DMing him to see if he had bought it. And he sent me a picture of him like grinning ear to ear holding the guitar. so he had like bought this guitar out from under me. And so then we started talking through there, and then me and the guys, as kind of like a spoof thing, made this video as like an audition tape for his series Frontier. It's on Netflix, where it's like this Canadian fur trader drama. And so what we did, we went out in the parking lot and we did this spoof video about us throwing tomahawks in the parking lot, and had music and all this stuff, and it was funny and it was a disaster. And so we posted that, and then so then he messaged me and said that he wanted a dirty pink Mulecaster. And I said, well, stories are better than money. How about a trade? And I was thinking, like, how about like a prop from his show, And yeah. And I said, so how about a prop from your show? And he said, screw that, get over here and I'll kill you on camera. And I said, and I said, well, where's here? And he said, Bamborough. And I'm thinking, I have no idea where Bamborough is. So I Googled Bamborough, and Bamborough is in like the Upper Peninsula of the UK. It's like this.
Okay.
It's the coast where nobody goes, like that sort of thing. And so they're filming this show. So we get this guitar going. We get it done in a month, and then I'm in the UK at a castle dressed as a redcoat, running around in the wind and the rain all night long, getting like shooting guns and getting shot at. For this show, so awesome. And we filmed. Him and I filmed a scene where he knifed me in the head. He killed two of my little friends that I was hunting him with, and he knifed me in the head. And then there were 3 other scenes where I shot some of his friends who were like running up this hill, and it was awesome. Yeah, it was.
Is this out? Can we watch this?
Yeah, it's season 3, episode 5, and the scene that he killed me in, unfortunately, got cut. And I was kind of worried about it at the time because, I mean, it was 3:00 in the morning and it was windy and it was 30 degrees, and they were really having trouble focusing the camera, and they were like getting like upset, like the film guys were getting upset with each other about how this camera was working. And I was kind of worried at the time, like, is this going to get in? So I don't know if it was that or not, but
maybe it wasn't they couldn't see very good or something type.
Yeah. And so, but the scene that I got in is at the first scene in that episode. I'm the redcoat that pops up over the wall and shoots, and then they cut to me on the side, and then I shoot and then kill one of his friends.
Oh man.
And so that's like it's my like 4.5 seconds of fame. But Jason is awesome. He's like, I went in with some trepidation of how this was gonna go,
Of course.
And he's a great human being. Like we'd be having dinner with him and the stunt guys and film crew or whatever. And it was very apparent that me being this guitar maker who's randomly there was not as crazy as it might have sounded. It was like everyone kind of had a story like that. Like I met him after a hockey game and now I'm his personal assistant.
Right.
It was that sort of thing. He was very genuinely kind and, hospitable, and it was just awesome.
That's amazing.
It was super cool. So the plan is that we just got done his Resonator done, and he's filming a movie in Pittsburgh. So I'm probably going to drive over there next week to drop it off to him.
That's amazing.
And hopefully not have to do any acting, but get it to him. Hopefully it's just a nice and easy drop. But yeah, it was a great random story.
That is so cool. I love it. I love it when things like that. I mean, that's just kind of like we've talked about this with just about every guest. It's like, it's not like anybody in this industry, especially, boutique, steel-bodied guitar industry, is just rolling in cash, like nobody's just Scrooge McDucking around, and so, but it's that stuff. That's why. Gosh. That's why you do it. It's the fun. It's just like you said. Well, money. Money's great. I mean, you need money to survive. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. I'm just saying, like, the stories, the experiences. That's what makes this industry so fun. That's what it's all about.
Oh, it absolutely is. When you have that common ground with your work coinciding with someone else's work, that's when you find yourself on a tour bus at 2 a.m. and Billy Gibbons is showing you this new app that he downloaded and explaining why his middle name is F.
Oh,
and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And now I'm holding a can of chili that he gave me as a souvenir. And it's those things that happen that, if you did anything else in your life would never happen,
Yeah.
And that's exactly, that's the currency that you trade on the days that you're like, what in the world? Like, why am I doing this
right.
at all?
Yeah, what am I doing?
You go, and then you see that can of Skyline chili on your bench and you're like, oh yeah, that's why, because you have this connection to other people and their life mission that you can't get if you're at an office or something like that. Not to knock every other job in the whole world, but it's just a really unique position to be in.
Yeah, it's unique, and I mean, I think it'd be crazy if we probably didn't say, like, it's all because of whoever's listening to this right now. You know what I mean? It's there.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like I did anything magical. Like, they're the ones that are making all of this possible. And so thanks to the listeners and the customers and stuff, because it's because of them that we get to have these experiences. It's not like we're some sort of mad genius or something like that. It's the opposite in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I think where that energy comes from. I was talking to Theo Katzman about this too, where I'm sure it's the same sort of energy that musicians get when they're playing on stage from a crowd. It's not so much what it is, it's that you're part of this experience that includes other people, and it's so much bigger than what you can do on your own. So, your listeners are getting something from you, you're getting something from them. This is so much bigger together than it could be separate. And it's just an awesome feeling, and it's a really powerful, real powerful effect.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So one other question about Jason, real quick.
Sure.
How inferior as a man do you feel when you stand by him? So I just look at him. I just look at him through digital sources. I'm like, man, I thought I was a real man. I thought I was a manly man, but
You're not.
I'm
You're
not
though.
No, I'm not.
There was a picture of me and my ex-girlfriend and him standing together. And it was just hilarious. We laughed about it all the time.
Is it an ex-girlfriend because he took her, or what's going on?
No, not at all.
I'm sorry, that was a bad joke.
He was definitely not her type. He was 6.5 feet tall. He's wearing, at the time he was in the costume, so he was wearing leather pants and leather jacket, and he was all done up in like blood or whatever, and and then there was me, and I mean, yeah, he's just a lot, everything is 100 with him.
Yeah, he's a force for sure.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
one of those people that just seem like, there's people that, and you've kind of already confirmed this. He just seems like, and that seems like a guy I'd want to hang out with. That seems. There's just people who seem that way, and you kind of confirmed that earlier, I suppose.
Oh yeah, and I would say like the intensity that you might imagine, in like the work and like if you watch him like on film and stuff. He is equal to that in his interaction with people, and not in that context. He's just as kind as he is intense. He's just as conversational as he is like this giant of a guy, And I came away from that kind of like really thinking about that. It's kind of like, if you were to play basketball against a guy in the NBA, you would really know what a level is. It's like,
Right.
That's what that means to be that good at something, or that's what that means to be that strong. You don't know until you experience it. And I think coming away from that with him was kind of like, maybe I thought I was kind,
Right.
But am I really? Or like, maybe I thought I was a hard worker, and not that everyone has to be this equal in all things, but it's like, but that was really work, like that was really intensity. That was really owning it, or, maybe I thought I was good at organizing people together, for a common goal, but that's really what that means, And so that was definitely part of the experience too.
Yeah. When you see somebody who is excellent at something, doesn't really matter what it is.
Right.
It's just like when you see the top of the food chain, so to speak, in any field.
Yes.
It's kind of mind blowing. It's like, oh,
yes.
Oh, wow. You know, even with building guitars, and I haven't seen this in person yet, but do you follow Dave Patillo, I think is how you say his last name, on Instagram at all?
No.
He's a guy, his family, I don't know the whole story. He's supposed to come on at some point. But it's the way I understand it, his family and his dad specifically, I think, I hope I'm not butchering this, they've been building instruments for a long time. And like when I see a headstock repair that guy does, you can't tell. You cannot see it. It's like it never happened. It's insane. And like I see like he's done a lot of work for Springsteen and like the top of the food chain. So I look at some of that guy's work. People say, like, I've reposted it before and people are like, that's not real. That's Photoshop or that's whatever. I'm like, no, like that's real. He really did make that go away, like completely vanish. And it's like it's a skill. Like he learned how to do that from his family, I believe. And just like when you have somebody that's performing it at that level, and there's others that are that way as well, but it's just you reframe what good is, and it's like
we listen.
You do that with. Oh, go ahead.
So we listen to Joe Rogan podcasts all the time, and the guys that he gets on there to talk about stuff, like this guy was on there talking about mushrooms the other day, and we had made the comment was like, I wish I would be able, like in my life, be able to know as much about anything as this guy knows about mushrooms. It's just like this whole nother level. And I think there's a couple lessons to be learned when you experience that. Is one, you understand what that highest level is. And two, I think, sometimes when I post a video of, some guitar player playing, you'll get comments like, okay, I quit, or, okay, I'm hanging it up. And there's this element of self-confrontation that comes with inspiration, where it's like, okay, if you watch Joey or Ariel or, Jeff play, you're witnessing somebody's life work. This is what they do, for 8 hours a day. This is what they do. You will not be able to compete with that, And so what you do is go, okay, but what is my thing then? Maybe it is not I'm not going to build the perfect instrument, but maybe what it is this aspect of it. And I think that's a powerful lesson too with that. What comes with that high level is I'm definitely the type of person who, like, if I see someone be awesome at something, I instantly like want to also be awesome at that thing. You know, and I've had to learn it's like you only get one thing. You know, you can't.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah,
it's rare to get more than one thing.
You got to pick. You know, especially if you're not naturally talented at anything at all. You know, and everything is bumps and bruises. So, you know,
that's me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. 100% agreed. Yeah.
It's like everything. I was like, I was talking about this on. I still do the Chasing Tone podcast with Wampler almost every week. It's not always me. Sometimes he has some other guys on too. But we were just talking about it on the latest episode where I was like, I am a bad guitar player. Like, I am just now getting to a point where I'm comfortable showing people the like my playing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it's taken me, you know, how many? I think I first touched a guitar when I was maybe like 10.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I think I actually picked it up in earnest when I was between 12 and 14. I can't really exactly remember, but it's taken that long for me to even be like real comfortable with like posting a pedal demo, you know,
right.
Like,
yeah,
just because I don't feel like I was even good enough of a player before.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I love it and as much as I play, I finally am getting to a point where, like, okay, this is an acceptable level of, it's good enough. You know, it's not the best, but it's good enough.
Yeah,
you know?
I think you could write like a whole book on good enough. You know, it's like it's like just a very challenging concept, and I think as instrument makers, I definitely think about this a lot. You know, especially as a professional, it's like, so we need to get instruments to customers, and we this is our life. So we care about it deeply, and we want them to be the absolute best that we can. And it has to be good enough. You know, we could keep instruments here forever until they're perfect, but you can't. You know, you just can't.
Right.
They have to be as good as you have to be as good as you are today, and not try to be as good as you will be tomorrow. And it's just this incredibly challenging thing to be okay with good enough. And what comes with that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it's funny because I'm looking around the room. I did a ton of work. I didn't build this room entirely myself, but I did a lot of it.
Cool.
And unfortunately, that's like my MO with construction.
Yeah.
I'm like, that'll work. and then it's like, why is that door not closing right? It's like, oh, because you framed it like an idiot. Like, that's why. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know. And so I'm like, there is good enough. That is. But there's also like, don't do what I do with construction and be like, we'll just eyeball it and it'll be all right.
Sure.
You know, like. Got to be a little better than that, which you guys obviously are, but there is something to that, and it goes with songwriting too. Like and music creation and everything. It's just like at some point people kind of need to hear it. You know, I guess they don't need to. It's not like you can do whatever you want with the things you create. You know, that's entirely valid. But at some point, it's hard to imagine. Like, I've always wondered, like, if there's a Bob Dylan that no one's heard.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
like. If there's like some guy somewhere in a basement, maybe with his mule,
Absolutely.
Who knows? Just writing the best songs we've never heard before, and he doesn't think they're good, or girl, or whoever, anybody, somebody.
Yes,
yeah. There's somebody out there that's got like the best catalog of stuff written ever.
Yep.
And, well, I think, you know, my dad. I'm not comparing him to Dylan, but my dad has wrote some really good songs, and no one but the family's heard them. And it's like, I'm like, come on, let's go. Come over and record them. Like, let's go to the studio. And he's like, I don't know. You know, like, I'm like, they're good songs. They really are good. I'm not just saying that because you're my dad. If they weren't good, I would tell you. Like, maybe we need to work on this. You know, no, they're really good. And so I'm like, if he's doing that and he's not even obsessed on the level that you and I are, there's got to be somebody somewhere that's just got gold. They're sitting on gold. Just sitting on the,
and it's
the
tragic,
best.
you know, and I think we can get caught up in that when we don't recognize our own limitations on things. We think that we have all the time in the world to get this good enough for everybody to like it, or to that this will pass my rigorous standard for myself, when like that's a different game to be played. Like you could do that. You could have this idea that there's some standard, or you could just write a song and get it out there, and someone's going to like it, and someone's not going to care that you were a little flat there or not even notice it. And if you keep it to yourself, you're playing this different game, and I see that with makers too, where, like the obsessive, this must be the most perfect everything, or else it's not leaving the shop. That's a fine thing to do, but you're making choices that make that's what your goal is this pursuit of perfection, when maybe that's a really great instrument and someone could have been writing songs on it. Or maybe instead of making 8 guitars a year, you could have made 50, and there could be 300 new songs out there in the world, and I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if you have to be aware what game you're playing, because that's how you inform your decisions. And that's something that we definitely try to balance here, where it's like our greatest joy is getting guitars to musicians and hear them play their music on it. And the decisions that we make always come after that. That is the first goal, is I want to get as many of these guitars to people as possible, because when they pick them up and they play them and they hear something they haven't heard, it's just amazing. Why would I put ahead of that, some crazy self-loathing standard of unattainable perfection? It would be very selfish,
right?
And it is about us and our work, but it's really more about, like you were saying with your like listeners and stuff, it is more about them. They need guitar. We have a wait list, it's 90 people long. They're waiting for their guitars. They want to play on them. They want to write music, and so we got to make decisions and do good work and get them their guitars.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, so we're getting down to the last couple minutes here. This has been a great chat. I think I could talk to you all day.
You too. Let's drink some more coffee.
We vibe good
and hang out.
All right. Well, we will. I mean, maybe we'll do a little for Patreon.
Yeah,
that'd
for sure.
be a good. Yeah, sounds good. But before we wrap up, there's actually there's a new last question, or let me backpedal. There's a new standard question, I should say, at the end, in addition to the classic one. So, and I don't know this about you, but what would your favorite boss pedal be?
My favorite boss pedal, was Metal Zone a boss pedal?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I had a Metal Zone. In high school, I would fall asleep listening to Black Label Society. Like I would literally put on headphones and then go to sleep, and just like hope that was like seeping into my bones. And so I got a Metal Zone because it said Metal Zone on it, and that was I think it had like switches on it too. Oh no, it had the double knobs.
The concentric dots. Yes,
and it was just like my first foray into gear geekery. So yeah, gotta go with the Metal Zone.
Nice. The Metal Zone. Yeah. I love it. I'm quite literally wearing a Metal Zone t-shirt right now. So
awesome.
I approve this message.
Cool.
That's fantastic.
Good alley-oop.
All right. So then I guess I got to revisit, since it's been so long. How are you feeling about pizza these days? What's your favorite slice? Like we still stick. I don't remember what your last answer was, to be perfectly honest. I've kind of forgotten.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I would say my favorite, here in Michigan, we have Jets. And I think Jets is like the perfect mix of like a good enough pizza, plus, it's cheap and good and accessible. But I spent 5-6 years in Chicago, and I have got to say that I'm not a fan of Chicago style pizza. I'm just going to put that out there so that, your listeners can fight amongst themselves in the comments, but it's just that deep dish pizza is too much for me. It's too much cheese.
I need to get to Chicago so I can have I've had Chicago style pizza from various places in Portland.
Yeah.
And as I've had various New York style pieces in Portland.
Mhm.
Now that I've been to New York, I can kind of pick out which Portland spots are legit, like
Okay.
New York style.
Yeah.
But I don't, and we definitely have some, which is awesome. But I've never been to Chicago, so I feel like I can't really comment on whether I like Chicago deep dish or not. I have enjoyed the Chicago style pizzas I've had around here, but I don't know if they're legit.
I don't know if it's that much of a science. You probably got a good enough idea.
No, there's something to it. You gotta have the real deal. You can't. I feel like
I would say the vibe. Chicago is a really vibey city. I love Chicago to death. I honestly do. I think it's one of the greatest cities around. So I think eating Chicago style pizza in Chicago, that might change the game for you.
Yeah, I just need to try it. I still kind of think that it's more of a casserole or a dish than a traditional place.
Yes,
but it's a pizza related. It's a pizza-esque thing.
Pizza
I don't know. It's there's pizza and then there's pizza cousins, and I feel like it's like a calzone. A calzone, no one's debating whether a calzone's a pizza or not, right? No. But it's definitely pizza related for sure. So, yeah. So anyway, I kind of think that that's how Chicago style is in my head. It's like it's kind of like what a calzone is to a regular slice of pizza. It's a different thing. It's related.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Cool. All right, where can everybody find you? Where do you want to point people to?
MuleResophonic.com is the website, and that's where you would go to give me money for guitars. And then Mule Resonator Guitars is on Instagram, and that's where you go to check out our pictures and videos of guys playing them and staying up to date.
All right, sounds good. Everybody go check out Matt's stuff. It's great. It's awesome, and he's awesome. So,
thanks, man. You too.
Do it. All right, everybody. For Matt, this is Blake, and as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, we did it. There's another one in the can, done, wrapped up, good to go. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and yeah, I mean, if I can get Jason on the podcast, that would be amazing. I'm a fan. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a fan. Yeah, that would be killer. But you never know what could happen in this crazy industry. So, fingers crossed, but I'm not going to be holding my breath for that one. But one thing I would like to say, if there are people you would like on the show, some interesting characters or some musicians or builders or whatever, a lot of you do message me with that stuff, and I can't get to everyone, but I do try to get to as many as I can. Got, fortunately, quite a backlog of episodes in the can and ready to drop, so we're nice and ahead, not struggling for episodes in any way, shape, or form. So that's good. But if there are people that you would like to hear, one of the best ways you can do that is to tag them on their social. Be like, hey, go on the Tone Mob podcast. Would love to hear you on the Tone Mob podcast. That's the best way. As a matter of fact, we recorded one, or I'm by myself. I recorded one with Daniel Donato here recently that was instigated by Blake Lawson. So shout out to listener Blake Lawson. He got us in a Instagram DM together, and that was the push we needed to finally get that episode recorded and ready for you guys. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. If you don't know who he is, hit the Google machine and prepare to want to quit guitar. He's an insane guitar player. Super cool guy. So yeah, I'm saying that stuff works. Not all the time. Not a guarantee, but it's better than nothing. So that's the way to get people's attention these days. All right, I think that's it. That's enough rambling for now. I hope to hear from you guys soon, and I will talk to you next week. And please don't forget to share this with a friend. You enjoyed this episode. If this is a thing that you like to see happen or hear happen, that probably is more accurate, then yes, share it with anybody that you can possibly think of that would be interested in this stuff. I personally didn't get started on my podcast journey until my friend Leon just kept pushing me to listen to Chasing Tone, which is strange that I'm now a co-host on that half the time or most of the time. And that's kind of what got this all started. So yeah, sometimes it takes you being that annoying friend. Listen to this podcast. Not too annoying though. Don't be that guy. All right. I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.